Oh, hi, Jesse. Welcome to the Alumni Talk. Thank you for joining us today. You're
Okay.
thank you, one of our first to kind of talk to us about the business sector, KPMG, a bit about your history. So we'll start off with what was the best thing that you learned at Esher College?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Kat. Esher College, I started in 2012, and immediately I enjoyed obviously coming from a secondary school and meeting a ton of new people at Esher College, and having that sort of step towards university as sort of an intermediate stage where I took myself out of the school environment, and it gave me some of the steps in sort of thinking about the journey of being completely independent after Esher College and going living at university. So obviously meeting new teachers, meeting people that treated you a bit more adult, that was really useful. The cohort group was great, and yeah, I think there was just a lot of good things going on at Esher College. A lot of nice people, really. That was the main thing that sticks and holds true to me.
And what about any sort of reminiscent on how the teachers helped you in any way?
So I think the thing that always sticks in my mind is when I first came for the interview for Esher College, and I was looking to do mainly subjects based around maths and the sciences. And I was asked, based on my GCSE results, because I'd done maths a year early, but then I'd done a further maths GCSE and not put maybe as much effort as I'd like to into it, whether I thought I'd be good enough. And it wasn't asked in a sort of derogatory way, it was asked in a very fair way. But just that alone, the sort of challenge that was unspoken in asking me that was sort of set me on the right path to begin with Esher College. And I think the consistent sort of support and, as I said, the cohort group, there was a lot of very bright people when I was there at Esher College, made it a really fun as can be with maths, experience to work through.
Brilliant. And what about your higher education journey? Tell me about that.
Sure. So actually, one thing I would touch on just before I go on to that is Esher was very good as well with helping me with the prep for that. So having gone and helped with an alumni at my previous secondary school, I've realised all the steps from early on in Esher College that they were doing to help us with UCAS forms and other things. So saying that, Esher College gave me a good step up, and then in 2014 I went to Nottingham University to study financial mathematics. I mean, Nottingham was a great university, and I picked it because it did have that financial mathematics course as opposed to just a pure mathematics course. I'd had a friend that had gone to Esher maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of me and gone on to do maths at Warwick, and he'd said, looking at getting out and starting to think about jobs in the workplace, he'd seen it been an easier path for friends that he'd known that had done a joint honours course. So I started to look down that route a bit more, and I did have some maths options, but some pure maths options, but went with the financial maths at Nottingham, and here we are. So I mean, the highs at Nottingham was, again, great bunch of people. I think the societies at the university were very conducive to what I was looking to do, which was to go into the finance sector afterwards. So they've got a very large economics and finance society. They had various sub-societies within that, of which I was part of one, which was equity research. I think I was the only person that went into audit or accounting after most of them went into investment banking. It was of my interest to do that straight after university, but really good and a really good stepping stone for a lot of people that are interested in those sort of things, because it meant that they had actually put money into investments, they'd spent time analysing it, working with other people. So that was one of the key things I'd say at Nottingham I noted. I'd also say I managed to come out of a prize, which is pretty good. I think I would say, thinking back to that first common at Esher College, coming out with the results I did at GCSE and then working very hard and then continuing that attitude towards university, I managed to come top of my course and quite high in the maths department as well upon leaving. So that was definitely one of the big highs. Switching it to sort of the work side as well, I think I was in my first year of university keen, like many people are, to get an internship. You have to excuse my lack of green screen and my head dipping in and out. But I applied for an internship with a lot of the big four firms in my first year, all of them. I knew that sort of going into university that I wanted to start in audit, get the accountant qualification as a stepping stone and a foundation when I first left university. And in that first year, I actually got to sort of the final stages with KPMG. Came back to London and did the sort of in the office written sort of final assessments and didn't get a place, unfortunately. Was quite disappointed at the time. I mean, still looking back on it now, I was disappointed I didn't get it, but definitely didn't have enough information. I didn't arm myself with enough information as early on as I should have. I sort of took it for granted that employers would come to the campus, tell you about things, and then you would sort of apply based on what you'd understood. But I came to realise a lot of the times when employers would reach the campus, a lot of the applications had closed or had been halfway through the process of being looked at, and it was almost a bit too late.
Yeah.
So first year I didn't end up doing an internship, but I was working part-time before university, and that sort of continued in. I was fortunate enough to have a work laptop and pretty much working remotely as we are now. So I continued with that, and then the second year really learnt my lessons, and for the summer holidays was looking at all of the Big Four's pages for internship applications for summer places. So this was in, I guess it comes as my first year after my first year of summer. So going into my second year that September, and the summers, it would be for the summer following, so during your second year of university. And I managed to actually apply to Deloitte and get a place and an offer before I'd even gone back to university, which, I mean, they come to see you on campus maybe a month or two after you've gone back. So it really showed to me that actually in the first year, had I known and had that insight, it might have been the case I could have got through to KPMG. It was just that these places also do have a fit number of spaces that they accept, and maybe don't take it on the personal side that it might not have been my skills. It might have just been the case that they had the best people allocated already, and they had very few they could put through on that day, and I wasn't quite as prepared. So that was another high. Got the Deloitte internship, was very happy with that. And it meant that I could focus on university in my second year, because it was actually my harder year as soon as I got back, which is really important, because I do find you find a lot of your time spread when you go back to university, trying to get these internships and juggling your exams or your coursework. And if you can nip it in the bud early, which I don't know about other industries because it depends when the applications open. Some of them do open a bit later on, but that was certainly something that was really useful. I had a lot of friends that were quite envious just because of the timing, and I could just focus on my exams solely. So then off the back of that, had a really good time with Deloitte. It was a bit short than I'd have expected. It was a 3 weeks internship, but worked on a major law firm, top 20, a major UK recruiter and a major UK sort of construction and contractor, mainly doing work with the government. So a variety of experience, really good time. And then from that, I, again, in the summer of my second year, having come off that, was looking to apply for the graduate jobs. Found it can be really quite disheartening with employers. Deloitte was supposed to interview me at the offset when I'd finished the intern, when I was still actually with them, and it didn't come around. 1 month had passed. I still hadn't had my partner interview date given to me. I actually got to the final stages with all of the other Big Four, and from the application stages, KPMG, I mean, I'd had it in my mind KPMG was one of the better ones anyway for me, and financial services audit.
Yeah.
But their application process was a lot more interactive. So the final day was actually all in one day, and it condensed about the final 3 assessment days you normally get elsewhere into one day. So you'd have an interview, a group task assessment. We had, I won't give the game away, but we had some fun things going on as well. And I came away from that, went back to university, and within about a week and a half got a call and was given the job offer with KPMG. And again, I'd just gone back, so it meant I could focus on my third year of university without having to juggle the job application thing, which I think some people can be to their detriment. You put all this hard work in your first couple of years, and then the job thing can take your focus away in the third year. So I was really fortunate in that sense, just on the timings and having had the recognition of that in the first year. So
fantastic.
I think lows obviously from the job hunt in the first part of university, but then turned around by the end, which was really good.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think that's a lesson learned, that you won't always get it the first time around, right? And you just have to keep persevering and keep applying, because certainly for you that was the case, right?
Yes.
You had that. And so tell us a little bit more about KPMG, sort of your journey so far, training, what are the benefits of KPMG? What have you learned so far working with KPMG?
Sure. So yeah, KPMG, I always knew, I mean, from audit and also just the perspective of the way the Big Four recruits, they recruit a lot of people of a similar age each year. And so it was quite a nice transition from university again, going in with a lot of people the same age group that have just come out of university, that are starting to get used to working in professional services and the demands that might come with. So it was really nice to have a big cohort group that you could sort of speak about things with, work on the jobs, work late nights with when it came to it. But I went for the particular scheme with KPMG they've got two paths that they run, and one's the intensive. And for me, I didn't mind it. Some people are put off by the fact that it was doing the majority of the exams up front over the course of 9 months. So 14 of the 15 chartered accountant exams in the first 9 months, with a stint of sort of work experience for 6 weeks in the middle. And then when you come out off the back of that, you're just working full time rather than trying to juggle over the course of your 3-year training contract, doing both, which can be difficult because when you're working in big teams, you've got people that have finished their exams. There might be a manager or so, or even just your own, personal ability to sit down after a long day of work and actually start picking up revision again. So battling everyone's interest, including your own. I fancied not doing that quite so much and doing it all up front, and it worked really well for me. KPMG are very supportive either way. I know that they would allow you, if people started that route, didn't want to continue quite such intensity of the exams, they could switch over and do it over the 3 years. Some of my friends did. So that was really good. Got through the 14 exams in the first 9 months, and then started working in the banking department. Typically has bigger teams, which can be a blessing or not. I found myself in a really good team. Again, large cohort group of similar people, similar age groups coming out of university. Late nights, definitely in anything financial services, insurance or banking, you're going to see it. But there was an element of sort of camaraderie through that, which got us all through. And there was enough incentives and sort of drinks and little perks here and there that made it worthwhile. So I think it's been really good. I've learned more than I thought I'd have learned. I think certainly if you probably count up yet.
And is there, you are obviously your role, or your title is auditor. Is that your main focus, or does that vary, or is that the kind of key focus of your role at this stage anyway? So
for the 3 years, you'll spend your time doing that. But to sort of put it in one box like that wouldn't really be fair. I think in my second year, I was sort of managing more than 3 people. I mean, there was offshore teams we worked with as well that I was a coordinator for. So you get thrust really quite early if you take it on well, a lot of responsibility, and it can be quite overwhelming. But I think you are sort of juggling sort of a manager, a mentor, auditor. I mean, and the thing with audit is that you don't really, like, anything can come up, and you've got to kind of build yourself to be an expert, or at least have a good understanding and find out who the relevant experts are to understand it. So to label it as that it doesn't give it quite as much breadth as it deserves. I've seen things from the way money is printed and originated, and how you keep traces of how much money there is in circulation, to complex investment banking transactions that are between companies, very hard to understand, that I'm not going to claim to have understood entirely, but as a team we've worked through and made sure that the way that profit that's related to people's bonuses and other things, I mean mainly.
So you're working on live projects, aren't you? That's quite exciting. I
mean, the clients are well-known big names, and I mean systemic to the UK. So in that sense as well, I think the responsibility that's thrown at you early on, you really do feel like you're making impact, and you are.
I think that's important, isn't it, to have that sort of level of involvement early on, so you do have responsibility early on in your career. You know, it's a great thing to have, isn't it? So life in lockdown, how's it been working remotely? Tell us about that. How have you found it?
So life in lockdown's obviously been difficult for us all. I don't think any of the big firms would have necessarily jumped into this if it wasn't forced. But I think, having been on a call last week with a number of the department heads, they were saying that actually they're seeing many positives out of it. They're not foreseeing that working life is ever going to return to what people might call a normal, having been beforehand. But actually, with our workforce and KPMG being an employer of a vast, like, diverse employer, we've got a lot of people that work part-time with children. We've got a lot of people that work, I mean, all over the world, but a lot of different situations. And I think this sort of trust that this has pushed people to accept with their teams that maybe they weren't comfortable with trying out before, is allowing people to work a lot more flexibly. And I think that the technology has been probably the most important thing for our firm. So getting that right, because our work is generally based in the client's office, a lot of FaceTime, a lot of talking to the clients, and trying to recreate that experience has been, first of all, important to be able to continue our work, but second of all, for our own sanity, I think, really.
Yeah.
making sure, as we are now, seeing people on video
Having
and having that
connection.
FaceTime, because a lot of the things we do talk about are complex and quite maybe time consuming. And as much as people are very full on in the city and need to work, it's important as well to have that sort of the softer conversations with the clients, and it's a lot harder over the phone or not face to face, where you might have caught someone by the water fountain and catch up with them on their football team or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that without the technology. So, Teams has been our main.
I think everybody's the same. Certainly at Esher Sixth Form College, that's been the same. Microsoft Teams has been great.
But outside of work, I'd say just keeping in a steady routine, maybe not the same routine as pre-lockdown. But making use of the extra time that's not been lost on the commute, trying to fill that. I was conscious I was commuting into Canary Wharf every day, probably doing a fair amount of walking with a heavy bag on that is not necessarily a trip I need to take anymore. So factoring in a bit more exercise. And making sure I keep in contact with friends, really. A lot of people have got different situations, people being furloughed and other stuff, so checking in with everyone else.
Checking in. Yeah. Finally then, we talked about, what would you give advice to your 17-year-old self at this time, especially at this time in lockdown? What advice would you be giving students now in this sort of strange time? What can they be doing to get ahead? What could they be looking at online? Is anything, if they're looking in the business sector, what could they be doing? What would you recommend?
Number one that I definitely wasn't doing was subscribe to some sort of news. The paid news services are better generally. That's why they're paid. And I use the FT, but I wouldn't say I haven't used other services such as The Economist, so I can't speak on whether they're any better. Depends on preference. If you can read it and you're enjoying it, I think that's the best way. If you find that the FT isn't working for you, just find something else. I read a variety of sources, but the FT is probably my main go-to, and it's definitely worth the money. From all industries, I understand from a recruitment perspective, if you're able to talk competently on current affairs, and generally they point to the FT being where their source is, then that is one of the key things in interviews. And I don't think it's something that you want to pick up more as sort of a thing to get a job. It should become a habit if that's what you're interested in. That is you sort of exhibiting your interests. So I definitely would have read that a lot earlier on. I didn't, and I picked it up now, and I've made it sort of part of my daily routine, just keeping in with things. And that doesn't have to be as much as the FT, all finance based. Just keeping it in the loop, because in finance audit maybe, but in general audit, your client could turn out to be anything next year or this year. So keeping the loop with just current affairs nationally and internationally. I think especially for lockdown now, just putting yourself out there and making sure that you're doing something. A lot of employers are going to be asking, if you're looking to apply for work experience or jobs down the line, what did you make use of this time? Because it's almost the perfect time to pick up your hobby that you've been putting off for a while, and they want to see if that's the type of person that you are. So thinking about those things you've been looking to do, think about, does it map in? It doesn't necessarily have to map into what your career goals are, but if it's something you've been able to show development towards, I think that's really good, something to talk about.
Fantastic. And do you recommend at this age they should be on LinkedIn as well?
I don't think it hurts. I've got friends who still aren't on LinkedIn, but I think as an example, it will flag up jobs that come up that are under your interest, and you might not be thinking about them until after university. It might be 3 years down the line, but as you start to read about the roles and the description of things they're asking for, that's kind of helpful to mold your path. And I found, likewise with KPMG, I didn't touch on, but also LinkedIn, there's a great number of very senior people and professionals across the board that are quite willing to just have a chat and make use of them, because you didn't really have that opportunity before without the internet. You only really had the connections either your family had, or through word of mouth, or through putting yourself out there by going to a company. Whereas LinkedIn, I've connected with people that are overseas just to ask them a bit about what their job role is and what it is they do, just to try and work out if it's what I believe it is and if it's something I'd be interested in. So I'd say for the social side, it's very important. News as well. News as well.
Well, also with LinkedIn at the moment, particularly because people are at home in lockdown, you probably will be able to get hold of them and they'll talk to you, right?
I'm doing that at the moment. I'm not saying that I'm in a career now and I've stopped doing that. I'm still continuing to pursue it, because I don't think you don't need to stop. And I think there's always interesting things going on out there, whether they are directly related to my work or not. So sort of carrying on that 17-year-old self, I'd say also not to be disheartened with if your work experience or the things you're working on don't align with what you think your job wants to be. if you are offered experience in the next couple of years and it's not necessarily what you think exactly is what you want to do, still jump at it. I would still encourage taking on as many variety of experiences, either to confirm or disconfirm you enjoy it or not. And it ends up being a talking point. I found myself talking about pharmaceuticals for over half of my KPMG interview, which is nothing to do with finance, nothing to do with what I wanted to do at KPMG. It was something that I looked at randomly in a society at university, and who knows, that came up.
Well, this is it. And I think transferable skills is key, isn't it? And on a CV, whatever experience you've got, it always, it's a talking point, like you said. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think obviously now that the Esher College Alumni is kicking off, probably making more use of that. There's a lot of good people I know that are in my year that have gone on to do fantastic things across the board.
Exactly. That's what we hope, and we'll get more alumni getting involved and being ambassadors for the programme. So thank you so much for your time, Jesse Hall. I didn't ask you what year you went, did I? Did I actually say that? What year did you go to Esher?
2014. 2012 I joined, 2014 I left.
Well, there you go. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.